Hey there guys, welcome back to Harman Art TV and welcome to Cadbury Hill, somewhere in the southwest of England. I'll leave that one as a mystery. I thought I'd just take this video in a new space. So as you can see, it's really nice. So we're here first thing in the morning, roughly probably about 6 AM I think, or 7 AM. Yeah, it was a nice walk, nice climb up the hill. So I just thought we'd take the video in a new space, just to get out and get a bit of fresh air. And but yeah, nice, really nice, really fresh. I was thinking it was going to rain, but it seems like it's okay. But anyway, in this video, I'd like to talk about what is sculpture. Yeah, so let's get to it. So I think I'll just run through, you know, like a quick definition of what is sculpture, just from Wikipedia. So in Wikipedia it mentions that sculpture is a branch of the visual arts that operates in 3 dimensions, and that it's one of the most plastic arts, and you know, sculpture being durable, being a durable process, and originally used for things like carving, removal of material, modelling, such as clay, stone, metals, ceramics, wood, and that kind of thing. But then it goes on to say that since modernism, there's been a complete freedom of materials and process. So I guess that kind of tradition has kind of shifted since modernism, whereas traditionally it seems like people would have used more kind of harder materials like stone to create sculpture, because, you know, being more solid and maybe can stand the test of time a bit longer perhaps. But it seems like, from reading the statement from Wikipedia, it seems like since modernism came around, people started changing their kind of perception of what sculpture can be. So yeah, I thought I'd just talk a little bit about, you know, how Wikipedia defines what is sculpture, because I thought it'd be interesting just to go into this, because I think recently I've just been questioning for myself what is sculpture, because some people might say, you know, it has to be made out of stone, it has to be a process that involves carving, it has to be large scale. But yeah, I think I just really want to kind of question this and take into account what actually sculpture can be, maybe can be seen in other ways. So what makes sculpture sculpture? And I was thinking, you know, unlike painting is flat, but it represents 3D objects in some cases, but sculpture is obviously 3-dimensional, so you can walk around it. So it can be experienced in kind of multiple angles, and also the sculpture can change depending on where you stand in front of it, because the perspective can change, the angles can change, and I think, to me, sculpture can be representational, you know, meaning it can, you know, take on the form of a person or a bird. But at the same time, sculpture can be non-representational. It can be very abstract. It can be more of a experience. So that's for me some of the definitions that I think that, you know, determines what is sculpture after kind of thinking about it. And but what are the different types of sculpture? So you got things like installation. Installation sculpture is usually, like, if you can imagine this open space and you have like a piece over there and a piece over there and a piece over there, and then you're kind of walking through it, that would be kind of classed as an installation, because it's not a single sculpture, it's not a single object sitting in the space. It's like a group of objects sitting in the space that you're having to walk and navigate through. So that's usually classed as installation, and then you've got standalone sculpture, and that can just be like a single object just sitting in the space. and that you move around to experience. So that's usually a standalone sculpture. Yeah, so from my experience so far, you have your installation sculpture and then your standalone sculpture. I don't know, maybe there's something in between, not too sure. What are the different materials you can use to make sculpture? So you can use things like stone, you can use clay, you can use metal, and you can use wood. And obviously stone being a material that was probably traditionally used throughout the ages. And then, you know, and what are the different textures? So you got things like, you know, sculpture can be very smooth, but it also can be very textured, or it could be a combination of both. And then the making process. And I was doing a bit of research online as well to find out a little bit more about what making processes can be used, and also looking at the making processes that I use. So you got things like carving, hand building, assembling found objects, and casting. And that can be like casting clay or casting metal. And I think I can definitely relate to this, because when I create my sculptures, I create them from individual pieces that are joined together. So that's a kind of assembling, and like kind of a method of assembling objects. So those are some of the processes. So yeah, I mean, like, so what are my thoughts about what is sculpture? You know, I think if you want to look at, you know, think about what is sculpture from the perspective of ceramic sculpture, maybe you can check out my video, my top 5 living ceramic artists, and I'll put the link in the video description, not the video description, at the end of the video, and you can find out and kind of think to yourself about, you know, what ceramic sculpture might mean for you just by looking at that. But I think my thoughts are just like, I think in today's world of like the contemporary world we live in, where anything goes, I think that's the same for the arts. I mean, traditionally the arts would have been like, some artists might have been commissioned to create like a patron, like some kind of person out of stone to then, you know, install that in that person's house. Whereas now it's like art can, you know, sculpture and art can be anything. You can just focus on the process and reveal the process, and you can create forms that evoke an experience that are very abstract, or you can create forms that are very representational. You know, the sky is the limit, and I think that for me is the possibility of sculpture, what sculpture is today. But if you asked, you know, like an artist working with sculpture 100 years ago, they would probably say, no, it's this. But I just find it interesting now, like the times we live in, like, you know, the sky is your limit, anything's possible, and, you know, and things just change so much, I guess. I mean, if you wanted to be very traditional minded, you could say, no, sculpture can only be large scale, it can only be made out of stone because it's more solid. But I think nowadays artists are trying to challenge that concept, or throughout recent time anyway, artists are trying to challenge that concept and say, well, actually, it can be other things. It can be small scale and it can be large scale. It can be made from a material that's going to disappear in less than a year, or it can be a material that will stand the test of time and last 100 years. And so people are just trying to, I think artists are just trying to challenge that concept of what is sculpture, and what material can you use to create it. Yeah, so that's it for this video about what is sculpture. Hope that's given you some insight. Might seem a bit random that I'm just standing out in the middle of this this hill, but I just thought it'd be nice to have the video done in a different setting, and also you can get a feel for like the British countryside. Yeah, but I definitely recommend, if you go to places like this, you know, it depends. If you're an early bird, it might be nice to go first thing in the morning, because you can hear the birds and see the sun rising. It's very fresh, and not many people around, so you can just enjoy the atmosphere. But it's definitely worth it going to places like these. But yeah, what an interesting space to record in. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, and if you have enjoyed it, feel free to give it a thumbs up, and you're welcome to also support me on Patreon, and I'll put the link in the description below, and you'll have access to things like exclusive content and merchandise delivered straight to your door and all that kind of good stuff. So the link will be in the description, and yeah, I'm going to continue walking around this area and exploring. But thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.